Day one of practice for the 2021 Indianapolis 500 was a day that was interrupted several times due to sprinkles in the area, but eventually enough practice was turned that all 35 entries got at least some track time. So let's talk about who was fast and who was slow, and some early Indianapolis 500 predictions.
And welcome back. Indy cars are where they belong, and the race is where it belongs in May. And today is the first day of the Indianapolis 500 preparations, and we finally are beginning to get some clues to the answers that we've all been asking. With 35 cars here, who's going home? Who's the slow guys? Who are the fast guys? That coveted pole position and, of course, race win. So we're going to do things slightly differently. I'm actually going to throw it to myself in the future as I'm editing this to talk about the fast and slow times in the day, and then we're going to come back here at the beautiful Indianapolis Motor Speedway to talk a few more things that I've kind of observed throughout the day. Drivers I think are fast, drivers I think are slow. So here are the fast six and the slow six.
So here are the fast six for day one at the Indianapolis 500, led by 2018 champion Will Power at over 226 miles per hour. Second place was 2014 champion Ryan Hunter-Reay at 226, and rounding out a top three full of champions is the defending winner and two-time champion of the Indianapolis 500, Takuma Sato. All three of those champions over 226 miles an hour. Bit of a surprise in fourth, but he was quite fast in the April test, so perhaps not as surprising as you may think. Sage Karim for the Indy 500 only team, Brian Reinbold Racing. Fifth place, Connor Daly, who was fast in the April test and appears to be fast here as well. The Ed Carpenter Racing team always fast in Indianapolis, and Connor Daly was very fast. In fact, was the fastest driver in the speed trap at over 239 miles per hour. Simon Pagenaud rounding out the top six for Team Penske. He, of course, won in 2019. And now for the bump day fans. These are the bottom six. These are the drivers who may well be in danger if these speeds do not increase across the practice week. Jack Harvey, he had some issues, took him a little while, they had to replace the engine, did eventually get some track time and got a 222 mile per hour speed out of it. Max Chilton, who oftentimes we see near the bottom of these charts when they're combined, but it's important to note he was quick in the no tow times, meaning he did not have any aerodynamic help to pull him to a better lap speed. So that 221 miles an hour may be a little bit misrepresentative right now. Pietro Fitipaldi, I've talked already about the Dale Coyne Racing team, and it appears that at least in single car speed, they aren't as quick as the rest of the field. So that's a car, the 51 and the 18 of Ed Jones, which is not on this list, I would say are concerns to be bumped at this particular moment. Sebastian Bourdais had some issues with AJ Foyt Racing. Their car caught on fire. He was not able to turn a particularly fast speed. Stefan Wilson, one of the drivers who had to do a refresher course today, only got onto the track with the rest of the veterans for a brief time and really didn't run in the pack, so that's why you see that 218 mile per hour lap. And then RC Anderson bringing up the rear for Top Gun Racing. Remember, this is their first ever IndyCar race as a team, and they hadn't even, or RC himself has not passed his rookie orientation yet, so they were only limited to a 212 mile per hour speed. That team has very much an uphill battle as we head or continue throughout this month of May, but they are a great story, being a minnow in a sea of hungry sharks.
Okay, so obviously, this practice day was a lot more race preparation than qualifying preparation. I think there's some information there that you can glean to say, okay, this guy might be going home or this guy might be on the pole, but I think what we saw today was very much race preparations. Though I will say, I think at least right now, the two cars that might go home would be the 51 and the 75. Obviously, R.C. Anderson didn't even complete his rookie orientation today, so they're behind the 8 ball. Now, granted, any cars that are here just have to beat, really, to get in the field, 2 cars. So I think that is something that we're going to have to be looking for as the week progresses, because if someone's consistently at the back, maybe we can kind of glean from that, hey, they're going to be the guys that are going home. But right now, it's really hard to say. I just kind of look at guys who have had trouble. And there were some guys who had trouble today, too. Number 60 car, Meyer Shank Racing, Jack Harvey. Now, thankfully, there was sprinkles throughout the day, and it prevented a lot of actual on-track running. In fact, it delayed the rookie orientation practice, and that also reduced the amount of time the veterans had. But they had to change one of their Honda motors. Now, I don't exactly know what was wrong, but I was able to confirm that it was an engine change. So something to keep in mind. I don't know how serious that problem was or even why they changed that motor, but they did change the motor. The other problem we saw was from a Chevy car. Sebastian Bourdais, car caught on fire, essentially did a full lap with the turbocharger burning. That was apparently caused by an oil leak. But again, the engine manufacturers, the teams, are pretty secretive about exactly what happened in those sort of situations. So just know that we've had issues with a Honda and issues with a Chevy so far, and we're going to have to kind of monitor throughout the week and really through the next 2 weeks which cars may or may not be having problems or if any kind of patterns develop. So, fast guys. I got to tell you guys, I think we're going to see a lot of the principal players from last year come to the front here when we get to race day 2021. So Takuma Sato looks extremely confident in traffic in particular. His car looks extremely strong. Scott Dixon looks extremely strong. Graham Rahal looks extremely strong. But I think you look at guys like Elio Castroneves driving for Shank, looks very confident. Juan Pablo Montoya, in fact, the Aero McLaren SP cars, or at least Pato O'Ward and Juan Pablo Montoya, they look like they're going to be threats when we get to the race. Tony Kanaan is another one that just looks like he's going to be relishing this opportunity to drive for Ganassi once again. And it was interesting today as well, because there are so many big teams. Unlike what we've seen in more recent years, where really Andretti's the team that has all of the cars and they all go out and practice together. We saw Aero McLaren SP all practicing together. We saw Chip Ganassi Racing all practicing together. We saw Team Penske all practicing together. So these big teams are really using that size to their advantage. And with so many cars on so many different teams, it's going to be really interesting because, again, I think it's going to go back to not only the competitiveness of this race, but the competitiveness just to get into it. And I will say this. I think there are a lot of people who could potentially win this race under the right circumstances. I know my cameraman Kyle is saying, he's adamant that Simona Di Silvestro's got something potentially for race day. But you look at it, and I kind of say, if it comes down to an actual race, you have to think, when picking a winner, can this person pass and outduel and outrace a Scott Dixon or a Takuma Sato or a Tony Kanaan? And that's the question, I think, that will answer for a lot of people who can actually win this race. I think it's a long list of people who could win this race, but I think it's a much shorter one when you actually think about it in race conditions. So, day one here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway for the 105th running of the Indianapolis 500. Thank you guys so much for watching. This has been David Land on YouTube. Subscribe for more Indy 500 and IndyCar content, and I will see you in the next video.